Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I am your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guest, in my opinion, is one of the best actresses working today, whether it's in Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards, and in The Fade, The Bridge, and now you can see Diane Kruger in the new spy thriller, The Operative, where she plays a rogue spy working for Israel's Mossad. Let's take a look.
I couldn't sleep that night. I imagined them entering, dragging me out. I imagined being hanged. I remember thinking I'm all alone. You know, it's just me and the rest of the world. Everybody must know who I am. How could they not? And then I realized, as I was standing there peeping, that I had nothing to hide. You know, I was just that person who came here to teach. That's it. Nothing else. I just decided I wasn't going to be afraid.
Everybody, please welcome writer-director Yuval Adler and Diane Kruger. Let's hear it. Hi. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for making this great film. I loved it. And Diane, I have to say, I love watching you play characters like this. I think you're so, they're different in so many respects, but your character reminds me of In the Fade in a lot of ways, just sort of infiltrating this different world that she's not used to. But one of the big draws to this, and I think one of the big difficulties maybe for an actress and as a storyteller, is that we're not really, and In the Fade, you have the motives right off the top. You know why she's infiltrating this world. With this, it's unclear what really her motives are throughout, why she's in this world, what exactly she's seeking. What is that like for an actress to sort of have that sort of blank pad to play with?
Well, to be honest, in my mind, I had a clear idea of why she wanted to be part of the Mossad, you know. In the book, the English teacher on which this is based on, we have a little bit more of her backstory, you know, in the sense that she was born to a Jewish father, but didn't grow up in that faith, and kind of drifted in her younger years, and then came to Israel and found her calling in the faith, in that religion, in that country, and you know, wanted to belong to something that was bigger than herself, and that's why she joined the Mossad. And she did little jobs, and I guess they took an interest to her because she wasn't your typical Israeli spy. You know, she had she can speak German, she speaks French, she didn't have an Israeli passport, so of what I understand, that's actually what the Mossad is looking for when they're recruiting spies.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, that's what I latched on to when I was watching it, is that she is this kind of drifter in a lot of ways who doesn't have a very direct, clear background that can be pinpointed. And so therefore she gets kind of wrapped up in this.
Yeah.
And while she, in some ways, has found her calling, she also just happens to be the right person for this job, which I think is so fascinating in terms of a difference between the kind of thing like in The Fade, where it's like, I'm seeking revenge, versus, I guess I'm the right person for this.
Well, but also, to be fair, she doesn't really know exactly what the mission is, you know, like that's part of being an agent, I guess, for the Mossad, is you know just enough
Who the mark is, or what you're...
But you don't really know the bigger picture of it all. And I think once she realizes what the bigger picture is, and that they're really using her as well, because they tell her she's part of the club, but really she's not really Jewish, and they're going to get rid of her easily because of that. You know, that's when all hell breaks loose, and she decides I got to get out.
Right. Yuval, what drew you to the English teacher? Is the book? Excuse me. What drew you to the English teacher? What made you want to adapt it?
The book was written by a guy who was not in Mossad exactly, but he was in the Army Intelligence Unit in Israel that interfaces with Mossad. So he was kind of in the business. And he wrote it with this fanatic attention to details that I always love when I read or I see movies, that you feel that you're seeing the truth, that you feel that you're seeing something that shows you something that you don't know, and it kind of reveals a chunk of the world that, you know what I mean? So that
behind the curtain, sort of.
Yeah, you see, like, it's like opening. It's like as a kid, you like to open a watch and see how it works. It's that pleasure, right? How does real spying works? Well, you get somebody, you build an identity. They go and they have a regular job and they don't attract a lot of attention. You know what I mean? It's like, really, how does that aspect work?
Right.
You know?
So much of spying is just sort of being a member of a community and informing and gathering intelligence.
Yeah, spying. You know, the point of a spy is not to attract attention to themselves. You have to be like unremarkable. not too good looking. That's why we chose, Diane Kruger to play this. No, but by the way, when she's in the film, when she's with the different hair, and Diane has this, it's a remarkable ability to, on the one hand, be Diane Kruger that we know from like fashion world, but on the other hand, be a spy and somebody that really attracts not a lot of attention, like somebody who can blend in, somebody which is the fundamental thing that a spy should do. A spy doesn't participate in bike chases, ever. You know what I mean? The spy's job is to live a life, and to belong as an outsider. Typically, they're outsiders. And, Mark Rylance, right? He did the same in the Bridge of Spies. Remember, even in the beginning, he was sitting there and painting and doing that's spying, that's it. It's like it. And the thought was, for us, when we were thinking about the project, is how to both show that aspect of it, but also be interesting, because if you just show a guy, painting under a bridge all the movie, so we always kind of created these missions that somehow fuck up, and then the kind of action starts. Because when a mission doesn't fuck up and the mission works, in a way, nothing should happen.
Yeah.
The spy, the perfect spy lives a life that's completely unremarkable. So we had to play both to be real, but also to be interesting and be a movie. That was a challenge that we had in this movie.
I have to ask, how do you make yourself, or how do you go about making yourself look normal? Or fitting
it's easier
in, excuse me.
Think. No, but it's just, I don't look like this every day, and no very minimal makeup, the different hair color change, and clothing, and it's, it's the way you carry yourself as well, A lot of it is physical, and, I spent quite a bit of time before we started shooting in Tel Aviv and doing a little bit of Mossad training and just, walking the streets and getting a feel of what that would be like, and not many people recognized me,
Did you find that, because your body language in this film, and I was complimenting in the green room, I found your body language in this film to be just as important as the words that you spoke. How did you find that? Did that come from your experience of trying to sort of hide yourself in Tel Aviv or walk around and be unnoticed?
Yeah, it's just, you walk into rooms differently, you keep your eyes down, you don't, you don't walk fully straight up. A lot of the clothing, because it takes place in Iran, are very, loose and very unflattering, really. The scarves, it's like, women in general are trying to be invisible there, so it's just observing and trying to fit in.
There's a scene in the film where the character attends a sort of underground party in Iran where she is exposed to the life that maybe a lot of wealthy Iranians get to live behind the scenes. Can you talk about that scene and what your research showed you?
Yeah, we did an incredible amount of research about Iran and about the life there, and we had people, Iranians helping with the script and with the details, and this is something that they all talked about, the underground party life in Tehran, the drug use in Tehran. I think it's like the drug use is the most in the world or something. It's like really, everybody gives you statistics once I saw it, and it's insane. And we just, again, I wouldn't presume to know, but that's why I was really literally kind of enacting something that people described in a very detailed way. And even at the end, we have this kind of dance that she does a certain dance there. It's called the Baba Karem, and everybody was talking about this dance that people do. In the party, the thing at the end, when they do this traditional dance.
Oh, right, okay.
Kind of
so I thought you were talking about this where she's alone kind of dancing. I was like, no, that's just what I do when I'm on drugs.
Exactly,
what I'm talking about,
exactly. No. There's this thing at the end which is very peculiar that when Iranians showed the film, they were like, "Oh my God, this is really, you know what I mean? This is really like how it is, So we really spend a lot of energy on that.
How important is it for you to be as detailed as possible when depicting not just this life, but the cultures that she is infiltrating as well, considering that the film itself is not about the action sequences, it's not about the big chase scenes?
Yeah. Depicting the life there.
Yeah.
It was it was extremely important because you always it's so specific and she lives a life there. I mean, about half of the film takes place in Tehran, and it's like how can you not be? I mean, enormous resources were, because we, for example, we used Iranian extras, so the faces would be Iranian. You know what I mean? And all the wardrobe, we had people who are like from Iran help us do that. And then we managed to shoot some in Iran, shoot some footage in Iran, which was an insane thing in itself.
Is that difficult?
For a partly Israeli film, yes,
sorry, yeah.
it's it's easier to, I don't know.
As soon as you gave me that look, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, okay.
So that was very, very difficult, and we did a lot of different things for that. I mean, the first thing we did is that we had a German DP, a great guy named Kolja Brandt, and he went actually before the film and he shot a lot of stuff. Wow. And then we kind of shot stuff to match what he shot and to as plates, you know, like that you kind of special effect into the movie. And then, and I, you know, when I initially it was kind of a secret. I shouldn't tell that he did it or not did it now, or didn't do it. And now, and I told all these stories about other things that we do. Now I'm telling another story because he's actually, anyway, it's in the record that he was there. And now after the film, he tried to go again. They didn't let him come in. So there's always this weird thing going on when you try to do this kind of stuff. But I think that one of the pleasures of the film would be to feel that Diane is in Iran, to see sometimes really Iran, and to see what spy work really is, you know.
There's a wonderful scene. I mean, so many great scenes with you and Martin Freeman, who, for my money, is also one of the great actors working right now. And there's a scene where after he's with you, he says to somebody, she's doing what all agents do, which is she's testing my boundaries and trying to get me to break the rules for her. What was it like crafting that dynamic with him and sort of in doing those scenes where there is a tenderness between the two of you, there is an affection, but at the same time, there is a game of who is manipulating who more or less?
Yeah, being in Israel and talking to the Mossad guys, that was one of the things that struck out the most, and they stressed the most, is that each agent who's on a mission has a handler, and that handler is the number one point of contact to the agency, and it has to be the most trustful relationships. They know everything about you. When the last time you had your period, the last guy you kissed, the last meal you had, and that exchange is extremely important. But as in the movie, it happens all the time that, you know, those relationships blur and that they try to manipulate each other. And in this case, I think we really get the sense that he's trying, you know, he's trying to manipulate her. He's not being honest with her, which breaks that relationship up and ultimately is what I think brings this whole mission down, because they don't trust each other anymore.
But there's also an element of him that wants to protect her in
Yes.
some ways as well, at least from the agency as a
Yes.
whole.
Yeah.
How did you go about casting Martin? Because I don't think this is a part that he would normally be immediately considered for, though I will say I have always felt like he can kind of do anything.
Actually, he really looks like an intelligence guy. That's what they look like. You know what I mean? They don't look like, you know what I mean?
It's normal. Just like
They look like Martin Freeman, and like and
he is one. We don't know. Spies are just supposed to go about their lives.
exactly. That's his cover, being an guy who does all this shit. But sorry, but then he's like, anyway.
You can
So,
curse. It's okay.
yeah, it's okay. Okay. So he.
You dropped a couple already. so
Yeah.
I think
He
we're
wasn't
good.
even
Yeah.
aware.
I'm sorry. He actually came in late. We were talking to another actor, and then it didn't work out, and suddenly he came up. And I again, like you, I didn't think about it, and then I started looking at him, and and when I look at actors, I don't look at their films. I look at the interviews. So I spent hours looking at a lot of interviews of his and getting a sense of the guy, and he was very interesting. Like there was something about him. I don't know if you see him in interviews. He's kind of very charming, but he's very elusive. He never answers a question. He's always making a joke. He's kind of, there's so many, you know what I mean? Even in an interview, you get that this guy has like,
He's guarded.
you know, he's guarded and has 4 layers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what spies, you know. So I became very interested in him. You know what I mean? And then I went to London and talked to him, and we sat for many hours, and I just really connected in some kind of basic level. You know, when it's also important. You know, you like a guy, you like. He reads a line, he reads the text, he talks, he has an idea. You're interested in listening to him.
Right.
You know what I mean? He has that. So I think the fact that he's there.
Not showing up on set every day and you're going, oh, here we go.
No, but it's yeah.
you got?
It sounds like a
No, Martin, he can't have an Irish accent today.
exactly.
Sorry.
Exactly. No, but it's part of it. It's a big part of it. It's not just an extra that it's nice to work with him. It's like you like him because you see him as the character. You like him because he's right for it. Because it's you know what I mean, that when he does different things, and Martin has a tendency to do in takes. He does very different things. He does one take like this, and then another take like that, and you like to see the variation. So
did you go and watch before Diane was cast? Did you watch interviews with her, and what was it in particular that stood out that made you think that she would be right for the role?
it's that thing that we talked about before. That no, Diane I knew more. I mean, I knew, I saw interviews, I saw that, and I just saw no, in the Fade I saw after a week, but like you know, we talked to quite a few actresses kind of approached us about this project. And a lot of times when somebody is just feels too much like an actress, or like, you know what I mean, like a certain look, like, I don't know, a real spy can be, you know what I mean, somebody who you can buy as a real spy. On the other hand, you want somebody with the charisma and the looks of people. I mean, this whole film is about the character's face. Yeah. She doesn't have a lot of there's stretches of the film that she doesn't have a lot of interactions with people. We just see her doing stuff, going from A to B, doing this, doing this. So you need somebody that has the charisma. So you need this contradiction to be fascinating and to be somebody that can blend. And really, Diane is the only person I could think of that has it, that has this, you know, charisma or glamour or something that you want to look at her. And on the other hand, that when she's, you know, with the Iranian clothes and with the dark hair and with this kind of posture, whatever, she doesn't stand out like in a crowd.
He told me he saw paparazzi pictures of me taking out the trash, looking
Yes,
looking
it's true.
like shit, and that convinced him that I
Exactly.
could be anybody.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, I looked online. I was like, oh, okay.
You know, I think one of the hardest jobs for an actor to do, and it's something that you do in this film, which is that you consistently, the camera is trained on your face.
Yeah.
Almost every frame of the movie, and a lot of times in close-up. But mainly, one of the things that you have to do is convey to the audience that you are thinking and reading something that the other characters in the scene. So it has to be so small that the audience picks up on it, but we buy that the other characters in the scene have not picked up on it because you're spying, and you know we're supposed to know that you're observing, but nobody else can know you're observing.
Yeah.
Is that something you're aware of when you're doing scenes? Are you thinking about that's going on for the character?
Yes, all the time. I mean, obviously it helps that the camera is this close, so you can do something very small, you know. And sound helps me a lot because a lot of it is Yuval wanted this, you know, the fear, for example, you know, the breathing, the anxiousness of holding your breath or like trying not to make a noise. All that is captured because the camera is so close and sound is right there with me. That was a big. You always said like this movie is about that, you know. We have to be in your head, but when yes. In every scene, in every frame, when we're in Iran, you know, in the back of my head was, if you screw this up, you're dead. You know, like,
Right.
And that's the truth. And so, it was always on my mind. And Yuval reminded me a lot, of course.
But at the same time, like while that's in the back of your mind, the other performers that you're in a scene with can't recognize that about you, but we as the audience have to recognize that consistently. And that's I think that's such an interesting contradiction for an actor to have to play.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's very precise.
Yeah.
That you choose the moments where you let the audience in as well. You know, there's the scene between Farhad and I at the wedding. Where I have to tell him, you know, I have to go to Germany to see my father, and there's a little line or a few lines when he's asking me about my father that are actually true, because the best spies, apparently, their story or their cover is 50% true and 50% false.
Well, that's what they say about lying as well.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it was a really beautiful scene to play because there's moments when I feel like you really see Rachel, like, or you see me as the real person talking about the pain my father caused me, and then the lie about why am I going to see him, which is obviously not true. And you do feel like you feel shitty too because you're lying to this person so blatantly, you know, and he feels bad for you, and you know you're abusing that sentiment, and it's, you know.
How do you calibrate that as a director in terms of the audience has to know she feels this way in this scene, but the other characters around her can't know that?
Yeah, again, because we were very close to her. There were other reasons we were close to her, but that's a different thing. But like we were very close to her face, and Diane, again, like great actors, when you can see their thoughts in a way, very subtly, when they, it's like about just thinking the right thing or being in the right, being attuned in the right way, and the audience feels it, and the audience is very close to her. And people around her are just people around her. They don't, they don't watch her like the audience. I mean, when we are sitting in a room, we don't watch each other the way an audience watches a protagonist. It's a different way of viewing somebody. So I think it's easy to kind of just calibrate it that you have, the audience connected to her in a different way.
Is it partially suspension of disbelief and partially just sort of where you have your other actors in
I
reference
guess
to her? Yeah.
I would assume. But also people like, in films you stipulate to people stuff, and they like if people around her don't get something, they play like they don't get it, and then it's stipulated to the audience that they didn't get it. The audience doesn't say, "Oh, I got it." You know what I mean? They say, "I got it," but I see that they didn't get it. It's like in film, you tell it. You know what I mean? So in that sense, but again, I feel that the special thing about this film, also the challenge in the for an actress was that because so much of it was, as is in the life of a spy, internal. There's not. I just shot a film that's like all of it was like it's like the characters are bouncing off each other and like a lot of melodrama. And I just realized in shooting this new film how much The Operative was a film where it was just one person, just the journey of one person thinking, behaving. Like it's very special, and I think Diane holds it together. But it's like it's not common to have a film that's just.
Was that something that attracted you to this part? Something that you recognized upon reading the script, that so much of the film was going to be about you thinking on camera?
Yeah, I really I love parts like that because I think it's a challenge to it's in your eyes, right? It's how you hold your body, how you let emotion slip through your eyes. And it makes a really interesting work because you're really present. You have to be really present. Like words sometimes can hide what you're really thinking, or you can learn lines and you just say them. But when you don't have words, you got to be there. Like there's no pretense, and it feels very honest in that moment.
I think I have time for a couple questions from the audience. Who's a question? Right here. Hi.
Hi.
How do you work on and perfect your acting craft all the time?
How do I what? To improve,
Yes.
you mean?
I think she said perfect. Like you don't
to
need to
perfect.
improve.
Well, it's never perfect. I try to be reminded every day, whether it's by my co-stars or by my director, that no matter what character you play, he can be a likable or despicable character, but that moment that you're choosing to say a line or be in you just got to be present. You got to feel like what you're saying comes. There's no other truth. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to describe it, but when I first started acting, I thought I can just act. I can pretend in that scene I'm this person, and as time grows and as I get older, and I've lived and I've had heartache and I've had love and I've had tears and joys, you come to realize that what makes us all one are all of those emotions. So you can be a rapist, you can be a queen, you can be anybody, but this moment where I tell you, I don't know, the flowers behind you are dead. Whatever most quotidian thing you can say to somebody is that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to think about all that other stuff. Just say it. It's hard to describe it, but life and a fictional character mix and become one. And I've been very lucky to work with actors that are much better than me, that have shown me that. You can't really explain it. You just watch it happen.
Would you say it's 50% lying, 50% the truth and who you are?
You don't lie anymore. That's the thing. I don't lie. Like I don't feel. I feel like I can't even watch my movies anymore because I feel like everybody knows that where this came from. You know, it's the lines blur more and more and more. When I was younger, I lied all the time. No, really, I feel like I don't lie anymore. I just I can say a line that's not me, or me, Diane Kruger, doesn't think like this person thinks. But in that moment, I wasn't lying. You know.
Do you think that has to do as well with because I think in the way that you describe it, it sounds like a lot of work going in preparing. I'm sure that's there, or do you think that has to do with also just a comfort in front of the camera and a comfort with acting?
No, it's very uncomfortable to be in front of a camera. To be honest, I still find it. There's a love-hate relationship, you know, because it sees everything. And when I was younger and I started out, I tried to run away from that. I tried to hide behind a costume or behind a makeup or behind a line, you know. And the older you get, the camera is your friend, but you can't, and your worst enemy. You can't run away from it. You
Well, it seems like you've
stop trying, you know.
You've started to choose roles as well where you can hide less and less, even though they're kind of about their characters who are actually kind of trying to hide. You yourself, as the actress, are hiding less and less.
Yeah, well, that's true too, but I think that's also just being more mature. Right. You know, those parts weren't available to me when I was younger, I think. But I'm less afraid of being afraid, you know, like, I can't get there, help me. I don't know how to do this scene. Please tell me, or I need more time, you know. Those things I was terrified of when I started, because I felt like I was gonna get fired, or they're gonna think I'm a bad actress, you know. And I don't care that much anymore if you think that. Just, you know, but I'm asking you for help. And I find that most colleagues or directors, when you're like that, then it becomes a collaboration, you know.
One more question.
Hey, you touched on this a little, but what were some of the differences in the writing process between this film and Bethlehem?
This film was more kind of, I tried to do, there's something, this film, I tried to kind of, it's a spy film, so it's more of a genre film. So it's like, how do we do a genre spy film? And that was something I asked myself when I started writing it. In Bethlehem, it was more kind of a political reality / situation that I was interested in. And I didn't think of genres. I just thought about how to create this multi-perspective, you know, whatever Bethlehem was. But like this film, it was like, there are certain rules for spy films, you know, and I tried to kind of both adopt them and break them, especially when we go against what a spy film usually is, what you conceive of a spy film, you know what I mean? A lot of, and I'm not just talking about usually people associated with spy film, okay, there's the Jason Bourne type stuff that's like, you know, the super spy that does this, you know? So it's not
kind of a spy. He's mostly just killing bad guys.
Just like, exactly, yeah, exactly. And, but typically there's in spy films, even the Le Carré film, like Tinker Tailor or whatever, it's more about like double crossing, but that's also not this, you know, that's,
you never know who's on which side.
Yeah, but that's another, you know, trope that's not really, when you talk to intelligence people, that's not really what really it's about. What it's about, it's the relationship with the handler, the living the life, the long-term aspect of it. What happens to you when you stay there long-term? When it becomes your life, when you start getting relationships with people, how much you tell your, you know, how the handler actually is oscillating between the demands of the system and protecting his spy. So it's about that, not about, you know, the mole, who is the mole, all this, you know what I mean? So we tried, so we're kind of shooting ourselves in the head, you know what I mean?
Who's the mole?
Exactly, who is the mole, where is he? And then you go, but in a way we said, okay, so on the one hand we want to do a spy film, but on the other hand we want to try to kind of go against those tropes and show what the reality is. So that's what this film is an attempt, is this contradiction to trying to play it both ways, you know what I mean? And I hope, you know, we'll see how it works, you know, but that's really what we try to do.
Well, I think you're absolutely able to do it, especially with this performance, which is
exactly
wonderful, as we've said. The film comes out August 2nd, right? It's called The Operative. Everybody go see it in the theater. And I give Diane and Yuval a huge round of applause for being here. Let's hear it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.